And here I am with our town manager, Adam Chapdelaine. Adam, I understand you just came back from vacation. I hope it was a good one.
It was a good one. It was refreshing, good weather, good time with the family, but glad to be back.
We're glad to have you. And I just got to explain to the audience, yeah, you traded one gray-haired guy with a goatee for another. I'm James Milan, and obviously I'll be taking over these weekly interviews with Adam as well as other parts of the news. Anyway, Adam, let's get right to it. We've got, as usual, a full slate of things to talk about. And the first is, there's not a lot of change in the local COVID situation, but tell us your thoughts.
So I think top line, you're right. We're very static in our numbers, which is good news.
Right.
Right. It's very good news. And I think there is a commendation to go around to the whole town, right? That right from the start, I'd like to think the government took it seriously. I think the residents took it seriously. And I think a large part of that is why we have stable numbers right now. That said, we had our noontime check-in call today, and I think we all still agree that this is not a time to let up. That we don't have borders around our town, that there are still communities nearby us that are not seeing the same success. The state is seeing success, but there are still hot spots in the state, and we need to stay vigilant in the activities that we choose, in the wearing of masks in public places, and the need to socially distance, wash our hands, sanitize, so on and so forth. So I think we have as good of news as we probably could have hoped for at this time. If we were looking forward 2 months ago, I think we'd be very happy to see where we are today. But, I would say to Jeff every week, I still believe we have a long road ahead. We need to get that vaccine before we can really have a sense of safety. So I think the best way forward is to continue to be vigilant. And, I know we have this tagline or sort of hashtag resist the urge, avoid the surge. And I think that it works, right? You don't do that activity that you might really want to do. Don't have that party in your backyard. Don't have that play date with a couple families in the house. Just don't. It hurts, right? It hurts not to have the socialization, the connection, all of these different things that you might want to do. But we got to continue to sort of stick with this we're all in this together mentality and get through this so that we don't have another surge that overwhelms the hospitals.
I'll just add, it has been impressive just being in and around town, just seeing the kind of diligence and discipline that everybody is continuing to operate under, even as we're all fatigued with doing this hard stuff. So, yeah. Good enough. Another staple of your conversations with Jeff over the last number of months, lamentably, is the situation with Black Lives Matter. In this case, banners, again, and vandalism having to do with Black Lives Banners and signs, Black Lives Matter banners and signs. Just saw a disturbing number out from the Arlington Human Rights Commission saying that, there may be, as they've heard from at least 13 different incidents. I know that we're all familiar perhaps with a few rather prominent ones in churches, at school, et cetera. But this is disturbing news.
It's very disturbing. It's very upsetting. I can confirm that number of 13. I spoke with the police chief earlier today, and they're still working. There's a detective assigned to the matter, working with neighbors of signs that have been vandalized, seeing if there's any Ring doorbell cams where we might be able to see who's doing this. But even outside of the investigation, it's just upsetting that people are perpetrating these hurtful actions. We can't make people agree with one another necessarily about what the signs say or the values behind the statement of Black Lives Matter, it's a shame that we can't come to terms on that. But even if you don't agree, going out and vandalizing something, and in addition to the vandalism, the message of that vandalism being one of hate is just not what I really don't believe it's what this community is, what this community wants to be, or what this community has been. So, I denounce the acts in the strongest of terms. I hope we find who did it so that we can hold them properly accountable. And if we don't find them, I hope they stop because it really is not in any shape or form of this important dialogue that we need to have about race in this country, in this state, in this town. that's not the way to go about it. It's just not. It's an immature, childish way of addressing, what might be something that's upsetting to you, but that's not how you do it. And I'm very disappointed that it's been happening.
Yeah. Would there were a magic wand to do something about it? Let us hope that people come to their senses, and we'll see what happens. Love to not ask you that question again next time I talk to you.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned, that the police are investigating, and that brings to mind, there was a recent series of community conversations here. I've got a couple of questions about those. Number one, the culmination of those community conversations in some way, as well as I believe the culmination of the restorative justice process that he was undergoing, is an acknowledgement, apology, and et cetera session for Lieutenant Pedrini, or featuring Lieutenant Pedrini, if that's the right way to put it. Anyway, that was postponed from its original date on August 4th. Just wondering if there are any updates about when that may be scheduled.
Yes, we haven't made any official announcements yet, but we're honing in on September 22nd. We'll hopefully be confirming that in the upcoming days. I'm speaking via Zoom tomorrow with all of the organizers of the event to try to put together what we really should be putting together to make sure the event's as successful is a tough word to use, but as restorative as it can be, and as healing as it can be. So, and really, I think that involves finding the way to maximize in a productive manner the various voices in the community that want to be heard, and the various voices in the community that need to be heard. So that's going to be the effort from now until the event in September. So we're working on that, and again, we're hoping to formalize and firm up that date hopefully later this week.
Well, one other question that's connected to the conversations and also has to do with the APD, and that is that one of the sessions involved an organization, Visions, that had done an evaluation, a climate evaluation in terms of racism, sexism, et cetera, of the Arlington Police Department. And I have seen that there's been, that part of that was the Chief Flaherty and perhaps others talking about the effects within the Arlington Police Department on morale, specifically of what's been transpiring, and the kind of the nature of the public discourse over these last now almost 2 years. I just wondered whether you had any opinions to share about that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is in all of this that I think we all have to appreciate, acknowledge, and understand the humanity of police officers. That we have significant problems of policing in this country. I say that loud and clearly, that we have work to do. I think that work isn't created equal across all states and across all police departments, but it's present. It is present everywhere. But within that, we want policing to improve, and to a certain degree to better humanize the people that they deal with on a daily basis. But I feel like equally we need people who are advocating for police reform to humanize police officers more, and understand that just like other humans, they have feelings, emotions, reactions, and are impacted by things. And from the Arlington Police Department point of view, I guess I would paint the picture of, here you have a group of, I would say, inarguably hardworking people who, for as long as they'd been with the department, worked for a department that was both locally, regionally, and probably even across the state praised as being a leading department for doing things right in a progressive manner. They're one of, I'm going to get this number wrong, but maybe 5 police departments in the whole country that are a site for learning about mental health being integrated into policing. So you have a group of people who are very used to being thanked and praised for the work that they were doing. And you then have what, again, unfortunately happened with Lieutenant Pedrini, change all of that, not just for Lieutenant Pedrini, but for everybody else in the department. And then you layer on top of that what's now since happened, stemming from Minneapolis, but going way beyond that, but the reactions stemming from Minneapolis that have really intensified feelings of to a great degree, justified feelings of anger and resentment towards the police. But you have these humans wearing the uniform that are, I think, having a little bit of cognitive dissonance saying, I'm doing the job the same way I did the job 3 years ago when everybody loved me. I haven't done anything different. Why don't they love me now? And none of that is to say that we don't have improvements to make and analysis to do to see how we can provide a better policing model that meets the needs of our communities and for other communities to do the same. But when you really look at it, you got to factor in these are human beings, and you change the channel too quick and it can be a little jarring for folks. So I think it's completely natural that there's a feeling of demotivation on the part of officers who are willing to express those feelings. And I mean, what I would say to officers is, we have to be willing to take a step back and be introspective and be willing to analyze ourselves and allow others to be part of that analysis to see how this, the Arlington Police Department should be modeled and how it should be operating. But to those looking, externally at the police department, I would repeat saying, your aims are likely true, and there are changes that we should consider. But again, there's humans behind the badge. And I think if we could all collectively start to look at one another from that perspective of humanity, maybe we could get through this conversation better.
Yeah, the themes you've hit on with the police as the context sound so similar to the themes that are being voiced and proclaimed by those who are seeking a more just, inclusive, equitable situation here in Arlington. So one hopes that your words will resonate with others. Quick pivot for my last topic to ask you about today. And that is, obviously, this is reflected literally everywhere else in the country at the moment as school districts all over struggle to figure out how, if, et cetera, to reopen. And Arlington just recently, our school department just recently announced the plans for this year. I'll let you go ahead and describe those plans and then give us your thoughts.
So I know that the school committee adopted K through 8, a hybrid model, and then 9 through 12, a fully remote model to start the year. Although since that adoption, my understanding is they've offered an additional sort of opt-in, opt-out for the hybrid for K through 8. So if a family chooses to stay fully remote, they will have that option to do so, which I think is based on a requirement that came out of the state after the decisions were made by the school committee last week. And I mean, I want to commend Superintendent Bodie, her team, the school committee, all the parents and other folks in the community that have been part of the surveys and the feedback and public dialogue around the issue. And I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I've been having this discussion personally with friends and family who have kids in different school districts all over the state. And, at the end of the day, there's no good answer. There's no one selection that either a district can make or a parent can make that you can feel like I've made the right decision. And and Arlington is part of that, right? There's going to be people who desire, fully in school. There's going to be people who want fully remote. And hybrid is probably, a compromise that no one's going to be happy with. But at the end of the day, I think Kathy and her team have done as best a job as is possible given the circumstances to offer what hopefully will be a successful learning model for hopefully the first semester, and we can see where it goes from there.
Right. And obviously we will see applies to this as it does to so many other things in our current era. Anyway, time for us to let you get back to work. I'm sure there's plenty on your plate, and we'll let you get to that. Appreciate your time as always. We'll see you again next week or thereafter. And thanks again.
All right. Thank you, James.
All right. Bye-bye.